7:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the walls. The chair is against the walls. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our daily gun show. Come be live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns for an hour. Guns people jumping in from all over the country. We've got Woods jumping in from Washington State. Thanks for jumping in.
Thanks for having me, G.
You bet. Then we got Dead Horse jumping in from Utah. Thanks for joining.
Howdy.
And then we got Midnight jumping in from Pennsylvania.
Hey, how you doing, G? Thanks for letting me in.
You bet. Thanks for joining. And then I'm down here in Tucson. We've got some links out to other people over on gunchannels.com. So we might have some others joining us tonight. I'm hoping that Cycle Camp will join us. I just watched his video earlier today on that Wool something place in, scroll down here, Woolarock place, museum, I don't know what to call it, like place in Tulsa where they had that Colt museum, and it's amazing. I can't wait to get back to Tulsa now, but I'm definitely curious to talk to a Cycle Camp about that. So if he jumps in, probably going to move the discussion straight to that. But whenever he can jump in one of these days, we'll chat about that. I don't know if you guys saw that video on the main page of Gun Channels earlier today.
No, I didn't get a chance to. I saw the notification, but I didn't get a chance to watch it. I haven't been home all that long.
Yeah, it's a half an hour, but it's worth it. It's just showing the size and scale of that place, the whole facility, and then the Colt part of it, the Colt Museum, which is amazing. Anyway, so we run the show over on gunchannels.com, a community we built for gun owners 5 years ago, and we're running it on YouTube tonight. So we're watching the live chats that are out there. The whole point of this show is to keep a conversation about guns going every single night. Our focus is on gun shops and gun shows, but of course Second Amendment is important as well. And we want this to be an effort in new media. So it's not a radio show. No one's getting up here to offer speeches or anything. It's a conversation. So we're hoping that people join in the conversation through the text chats that are out there when we're live. And if you're listening to this in the future, then consider the text chats that are out there on the hosting platforms, gunstreamer.com, guntube.org. Those are video hosting platforms where this video will be posted. Use the comments there. If it's 6 months from now, or at least 6 months from Cyber Monday when we're filming this, feel free to leave comments. That's what the internet's all about, is a conversation that allows individuals to share information. It is Cyber Monday. I guess I should mention that. And today, during the show, we'll be doing the drawing for the Red Dawn collection giveaway thing that we're doing over at the Gear website store. Since it is Cyber Monday, we're participating in the capitalism, trying to bring our profits from the red to the black. That probably won't happen today, but it would be great to think we could. And we're offering a bunch of things over on the Gear website store, which is one of the ways that we pay for all of our projects and keep our tours on the road. And first off, every order that goes out today is getting our Wolverine squared patch. It's Wolverine holding a gun up in the air like the Red Dawn when he yells Wolverine. That's a PVC patch that's not for sale. So we only offer that as a giveaway for events like this. So hopefully all those will get given away today if we get a bunch of orders. Additionally, any order over $19.11, any order over $19.11, right, $19.11, will get a deck of cards, the Firearms Inventor cards. And I did not try to even do the math. I just wanted to do something cool for Cyber Monday. Hopefully we don't take it in the pants there. And then every order that comes in today is in the running for a drawing that we'll do during this show later on for a giant Red Dawn prize pack, or I guess it's more like tour loot, or no, it's not even tour loot. It's just Red Dawn loot, stuff that we've either created or put together over the last year, basically, relating to the Red Dawn movie. So we'll take a look at that more in depth later. But if you are not familiar and you're interested in participating, I'll put a link out there on both of the Gun Channel side and over on YouTube. It'll be a link in the description as well. So if you're, again, watching this show in the future and you still want to help keep everything that we're doing online, you can definitely participate in the future by buying something over at the store. We have everything priced so that pays for the item and then keeps us, keeps the doors open. So we appreciate everybody who participates that way. Saw Cycle Camp jump in from Connecticut. Thanks for joining. And man, that video you posted today was awesome. Thanks for posting that. So modest, you won't even acknowledge.
Which video are we talking about?
Oh man, it sounds like you're next door.
Yeah, which video are we talking about?
Willow Rock?
Oh yeah, I posted that yesterday actually, or maybe it was early this morning.
Oh well, whenever. But the video is
Yeah.
awesome. I knew that there was a cult collection there, but the way that you have the video to show us the size and scale of that room, and the rest of the museum is interesting too. But anyway, we'll talk about that if you want.
Yeah, and that's just one of the. I only went up there to go to the museum, but there's other stuff up there too. There's a big lodge where what's his name? Phillips used to actually live. Frank Phillips actually used to live. There's a
How much
there's
a? Oh, go ahead. I'll just interrupt you.
no, go ahead.
As far as the Phillips guy, so this guy is Phillips Oil and Route 66 and stuff. Did you know anything about that guy already? Did they have a bunch of his history there? And if so, did you look at any of that?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I looked at a lot of it. He was really a rags, well, not a rags to riches, but he was an entrepreneur. I mean, he was a barber, he was a banker, all that kind of stuff long before he got involved in the petroleum industry. So it was really pretty neat, and he apparently was a very well liked by all the people around him. I mean, everybody called him Uncle Frank, and hopefully it was in a good way and not my crazy Uncle Frank, but it really was very interesting, and the whole deal with him was that he did he had got this thing kind of started up already, and he turned it over to the state. It's kind of like J.M. Davis. There's a lot of similarities there between how Davis did his and how Phillips did his. But he turned the whole schmutz over to the government, with the understanding that they would preserve all the museum stuff and keep the animals going and all that kind of junk.
Very cool.
But you could really, they say it takes 3 hours to see the place. I think it takes 3 hours just to see the museum. And then you've got, the house and there's another building. I'm not exactly sure what it's for. I'd have to go back and look it up. But, there's, in addition to that, there's a lot of Indian history there. I have never seen so many pictures of photographs and portraits of Native Americans. It's just incredible. So really a great place. And of course, if I'd have known what was happening, like the ostriches and stuff, you see those on the way in because they're in the enclosures. But more the loose animals are kind of like on the way out, and that's what I spent most of my time on. But they got a bunch of animals floating around out there. It's pretty cool.
So it's basically his house turned into this whole big presentation of his collection.
Yeah, I think it definitely, he lived there for quite a while, so he must have had a very large piece of property, way off the beaten path. Like I said, it's 2.5 miles to get back to the nearest main drag, and he turned the whole thing over to him. So that was pretty cool.
And you said it was downstairs, the Colt collection or whatever, and there was other guns besides Colt. So is there like signage to tell you, or maybe a presentation that tells you like why he collected, like we did with J.M. Davis? There's that like presentation in that first room that tells you where he got started and why this collection exists.
If there was, I didn't see it.
Okay.
I have no idea why he collected so many firearms.
And why specifically Colt?
Well, no, I mean, he's got a fabulous Colt collection, the really interesting thing is the number of prototypes and really low serial number guns he's got. But there's, I mean, he's got other rooms that I didn't even go in with Winchesters and, you know, other stuff. So the Colt collection is all the gun collection.
So it's a varied collection with a lot of Colts. It's not a Colt collection with a couple of other guns.
Right. He's got that one room that focuses on Colt, but when you come out, there's a lot of other stuff. You know, I mean, he loves the Winchester, the lever actions, and all that other stuff. They're all over the place in there too. But the Colt is the most complete. You know, and the you know, if I'd have realized it when I first started looking at it, there's kind of if I'd have started on the other side of the room, there's like a timeline. You start with the really old, you know, patent company guns, and then you move up. And as you go around the corner, if you go anti-clockwise from where you go in, it gets, you know, newer and newer and newer and newer. It's pretty cool. I ended up starting off at the newest part of the place, and that kind of screwed it up.
But I think somewhere here is where you start to show like the room. So this was the early stuff, like you're saying, and then as you pan across, this is just the Colt room. Then, so is that the whole downstairs is guns?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean that's where the trains were and all that other stuff too. It's a huge building. I mean, the building is phenomenally. It's just monstrous. Okay. You could probably put J.M. Davis in there at least 2 or 3 times.
Oh, really?
Just from a floor space point of view, because you've got about twice the size of J.M. Davis on a floor, and you got 2 floors. But it's not all guns. But this here that you're looking at now is just the Colt part, and when you walk back out the room, you're in other kinds of guns. Now, there's nowhere near as many other guns as there are Colts, but it's not just a Colt collection. But he obviously was fascinated with Colt and anything to do with them. I mean, they're just phenomenal.
So the guy owned Phillips 66, and did he have a family?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, wife, a bunch of kids, just like everybody else.
He just had so much cash that he was able to just spend it on whatever he felt like, and he wanted a lot of cool Colts. Well,
you know, he just started up small. You know, like I said, he was a barber for a while, and I think he might have been a mover and shaker in the town council, because most guys like that do tend to be like that. But it was pretty interesting. Yeah, there's a great example. Here's a revolving rifle, and one of 10 made. You know, just amazing that he's even got his hands on it. So it was pretty cool. It was definitely worth the hour it took to get out there.
And then, what does it cost to go there?
Geez, I don't know, like $10.
Okay.
They get you at the gate, right? Right when you first get in the gate, the piece of paper that I show at the very beginning, the 2-sided piece of paper with all the animals and stuff on it, that's where you get that, and I think it's $10. And I don't know if it's $10 a head or $10 a carload or what, but it's pretty neat.
All right. And then here you're showing some of the other stuff, because it's like you were saying in the video, it's not just a gun collection out 1 hour from Tulsa. It's a big, I don't know, accumulation of collections from a rich guy. So
yeah,
there's all kinds of stuff to see.
And then there's other people's collections of stuff that are also in there. So like the lead figurine collection that's going to come up a little later, that's someone else's collection that they brought in, and they display it there, and that's pretty cool.
Okay.
But it's since the state took it over, you know, they've expanded a little bit. They have a little bit more. They have a little bit more stuff, but it's pretty cool.
So we're talking about Woolaroc, and it's like an hour something north of Tulsa, and it's a big estate from this guy who had Phillips 66, the gas company, and left it to the state of Oklahoma, who is leaving it open to the public for nominal feet. And there's all kinds of cool things that the guy's acquired over his life, including like a massive Colt collection that we just saw the room. Awesome. Yeah, I'm so glad you went there because I had only seen a few still images and they didn't do it justice at all. That video really showed the scale of it. Right. So I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything else about that. Or we switch directions. Take the model train in a different route. Nobody saying anything on Gun Channel side. Pink is asking if there's a code for Cyber Monday. No, I don't use codes. I guess I do use codes, sorry, when I'm on Patreon. So if you're a Patreon supporter, I forget what level, like the $12 level or more, then there is this code for those Patreon supporters who are already supporting the projects financially. We want them to be able to get stuff without a financial issue. So they have a substantial code over there, I think. And it'll always work on no matter what our things are, whatever kind of promotion we got running. Patreon people always get their cut on top of all that. So sorry, I should have said there is that code you can always use. But then for the most part, we don't try to put a bunch of codes that you have to remember so that we get you. We're trying to, if we have a promotion, it's because we want to share our stuff or say thanks. So it's just everything that gets purchased today is automatically going to get the patch. Anything over 19 bucks and 11 cents is going to get the deck of cards also. And then everything is in the running for the drawing. Frank Phillips lived in Bartlesville, and his house is still there. Woolaroc was his lodge, where he would entertain celebrities from around the world. Okay, that's from Weston. Thanks. That makes sense too, right? Rich people.
Yeah, they called it his home. I don't know, and Woolaroc is in Bartlesville, so you got me. But I would believe that. I certainly, he probably knows that a lot better than I do. I mean, I'm from Connecticut. What the hell do I know?
Well, it makes sense. He's got the house in town where he has his house stuff, and then he's got his weird place out in the country or outside of town where he's got his cool stuff.
I mean, he has like lakes and stuff where they would fish, and it's just amazing. The place is huge.
Cycle, you said that it was very similar to the Davis Museum. How so?
I just meant that that the Davis Museum isn't just guns, right? You've got the beer steins and the saddles and the brands, and there's a lot of other stuff from around the area in there as well. So it's not just, it is a firearms museum, but it's not just a firearms museum. And Phillips's place is like that as well. It's in addition to having a lot of firearms, and they're kind of like even second fiddle. I mean, there's like planes in there. I didn't show pictures of that stuff, but there's actually there was a mail plane that they used to use, kind of a small one, like a Cessna size, a little bit bigger than a Cessna. And they actually had it hanging in one of the rooms down there, just to give you a feel for how big the place is. And they had tanker, old tanker trucks, that they used to move fuel around with and stuff like that. It was, a lot of stuff. It was really cool. But he just seemed to be, he collected a lot of things. It wasn't just the firearms. It was all kinds of different things.
I wonder if they just used that to move mail around, or they didn't like fly around and drop people's mail on them, did they?
No, I expect that they were just using that to bring it in.
Okay. Never thought about that, but maybe they do that in Alaska or something.
Yeah, well, that's what they do in Alaska and other places.
I'm going to see if I can't just have my mail airdropped to me. Sounds like
Isn't that what the girl used to do? What was the name of that stupid show where the girl flew the plane all the time? I thought that was the same bit. I thought she was actually a mail delivery. That was one of her jobs, was to deliver the mail.
Like a sitcom?
Yeah, it was sort of sitcom-y. It was a rom-com drama thing. He wrote, it was a little bit of everything. It was kind of off the wall.
Oh, you mean
One
Wings?
of the guys was a doctor.
Wings?
No, 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 no. Younger than that.
Northern Exposure.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm trying to think of. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Oh, is that what she did on that show? Maggie?
I thought that's what she did. Yeah, I thought that's what Maggie did. I thought she flew the plane.
Yeah, it was filmed here in Washington, but you can go to that Rosalind Cafe. That's an actual place, and it was filmed here in Washington. I knew a lot of people that worked on it back in the day. But it was supposed to be Alaska, but Washington was probably better because it wasn't as cold, so they could film it.
Yeah, they have to work up eaten by grizzly bears and polar bears and shit.
Well, it cost 1,000,000 times less, right? Even buying a glass of water in Alaska is like 4 times more than Washington, I bet.
I'm just saying, in the frontiery, back in the day, that was how you got the mail around. You had little mail planes that went to the larger cities, picked it up, brought it back.
All right. Well, we're on Cyber Monday, and I don't know anything else about Cyber Monday other than it's when you're all obligated to buy from online stores. So this is when we go out of the black, or out of the red and into the black. But I don't really have anything else to talk about there unless you guys know something cool about Cyber Monday. But we're using the Red Dawn theme. I'm not even sure why. I guess because I got the Wolverine squared patches done. So I have enough of those to send out to everybody. And then today I got the Calumet girl, the girl from the sign in the town on the side of the building. I did that in a sticker, and I got those today finally in the mail. So I kind of figured, I knew they were coming, that they should be here today. So I figured, that would be something I could add to the orders that come in. Well, I guess I didn't even mention that. I'll add one of them stickers to everybody's order. But I knew I could put them into the prize pack too, because anyway, that would make it a Red Dawn theme. So I figured we'd talk about Red Dawn a little bit. But I don't want to pull teeth, so we're not seeing much going on in the chats. You guys are just sitting here with dead air.
I like Red Dawn because I'm old enough to remember that there wasn't anything near like that from back when I was a kid. It was the first time that it ever dawned on me that maybe I would have to do something to defend America, or I would have to be prepared, or like we never had any of that before.
Well, I think that's kind of one of the big deal. The big themes of it is the everyman steps up to defend his family, the country, whatever. You know what I mean? It's not something you see, every day, especially with kids, young adults.
I wonder which science fiction writer he got the idea from.
You're talking about Milius?
No, I wonder where they got the idea for Red Dawn, because the alternative history, what if America got invaded, that kind of thing. That was a pretty popular fantasy and speculative fiction, to give it its proper name, right? We don't call it sci-fi anymore. Not politically correct, I guess. A lot of those guys, that was one of their main topics was, what would happen if someone tried to invade America? How would that actually play out? And I wondered, I'm not familiar enough with the movie to remember the credits or any of that stuff. If they say where they got the idea from.
I don't know about in the credits. There was a DVD. So the movie came out in '84, which was kind of almost pre-VHS days, so it did come out in VHS when VHS started to hit and everything. And then whenever DVDs came out, there's DVDs, and the DVDs had DVD extras. So then you had whatever anniversary, probably some kind of remix or digitally enhanced or blah blah blah, and then movie extras, and they had interviews with the actors and with Milius, the director. So you can find all that stuff online on YouTube. All the extras are on YouTube as independent videos. So you can get answers to some of that. But that, I don't know if you know, but Milius, the director, is the guy from Conan and Dirty Harry and Apocalypse Now. So he's he's done some movies. He went to school and grew up in school with Spielberg and who's the other guy? The other guy from Star Wars, Lucas.
Lucas, yeah.
He hung out with Spielberg and Lucas, and Spielberg and Lucas credit him with them going out on weekends and shooting shotguns. They said they would have never done something like that if it wasn't for hanging out with Milius. So the presence of guns in their movies is in part due to Milius's getting them accustomed. You know, California and stuff, they weren't going to just go out and experience guns, but his influence gave them a comfort level with guns that we see guns in their movies to a level we might not have seen. So Milius was kind of cool. I'm trying to remember now from all the stuff I've seen. He does address it though. I'm just not recollecting. I don't want to try to speculate, but I do remember him talking about the reasons for making Red Dawn, and he may have even talked about some of the influences and stuff. But he's a cool dude. He started out making a movie called Big Wednesday, a surf movie, and all of his movies were done with intent. Red Dawn was certainly done with intent. He did it at the time in 1984 and in such a way, and as the first PG-13, did it in such a way that it was written for, a specific audience. And I think, and I didn't know it at the time or nothing, but it certainly worked. It did what he intended it to do, and people reacted the way that he hoped they would from listening to his thing. So there's the DVD extras. There's also a documentary just called Milius, which is where I get all my information. I didn't know nothing about it until I watched that documentary. It was on like Amazon or Netflix when I had them. You can find it out there. It's like a full length documentary. The guy's pretty cool. Like I say, he grew up, went to school with the guys, other filmmakers, and was involved with movies like I say, Apocalypse Now, Dirty Harry, Conan was his, Red Dawn and others, and then had influence with some of their productions too. So he was involved in a lot of really interesting, pivotal movies that are considered classics now. And the movie about him, the biography about him, is pretty interesting, just because I didn't know there was that much interaction or involvement with him in the other movies and stuff. And then at some point, he was also. Have you ever seen the movie The Big Lebowski?
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
The whatever Goodman's role character, I forget that guy's name in the movie, but the guy who John Goodman plays in The Big Lebowski, that's based on Milius. That's him. That's like he was that way, them in Hollywood. So the documentary talks about like that concept, that he was just sort of this wild guy, was all into guns, and wasn't doing it in an obnoxious way, but it's sort of what's his name? I get the idea that it was sort of in a an intentional way to poke the liberal anti-gun kind of mindset, but also because he was an American and he liked guns, and he wasn't gonna bow to some political pressure or whatever. So anyway, he seems like an interesting guy. Then at some point he had a stroke. He was also living life large, and at some point had a stroke, and then he's still kicking, but seriously impeded from his original pace. But anyway, interesting movie. I'd recommend the documentary for sure. But I think the answers to some of those questions you asked are out there. And if anybody's really interested, like I say, it's worth for sure checking out. Typing in like Red Dawn DVD extras, and you'll get those off of YouTube. There's like quite a few of them actually, because some of them are with the actors and the people who made the movie, and then there's some with the director and stuff. I agree with you, Woods, that at the time, I don't agree with you completely, because I think there was things like Taps. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So there was definitely like there was some level of like awareness that as high school kids, we were potentially needed in the fight and should be aware and make a decision. You're either going to be like ready to go, or you're going to be a dumbass. And I think that's one of the things that the movie, just instead of being wishy-washy about it or being sly or trying to allude to anything, it just brought it right out in the open, right? Like, you're either going to crumble when this happens, or if this happens, or you're going to do what needs to be done, just bounce around and react. But if you react in a way that, you know, has a I'm going to kick some ass mindset to it, then you're going to end up succeeding, because they're depending on a bunch of people being idiots. And I thought that it brought all that kind of concept out in an awesome way. Hopefully, I think it made the country a better place, because somebody who watched that wasn't even into anything is just going to watch that and know that we live in that kind of country, I think.
I definitely think it made me feel more an American. Like before that, I was just a 13-year-old kid who didn't care about myself, anything other than my Dungeons and Dragons and probably my Atari. But I didn't ever feel like part of like a bigger thing. I definitely awakened something that like we're part of a bigger thing, and America is going to rally together and that kind of a deal. Maybe it's just me, but I'd never even, you know, I was only 13, but you know, it never dawned on me that any of that would be a thing until I watched that movie. And I definitely had it on VHS, and I watched it all the stinking time.
I remember watching it on cable, well, seeing it in the movie theater, and then whenever it came on cable, I recorded it on a blank VHS, right? So I had that version of it, and then eventually I bought a VHS, and I'm sure I wore out both of those.
Yeah, I think I recorded it too. I think I did exactly the same thing, because I was also, you can't underestimate, I was 13 in 1984, so that was the first time I could go to a movie that the younger kids couldn't go to. It was a big deal for us.
Huh, I never thought about it that way. I'm trying to remember how old I was. Probably had to be around the same thing.
I remember riding my bikes to the movie theater.
Now, Cycle, you're older than us, so when you saw it, you were in your 20s? Or no?
Nope.
So you were 17 or something, though?
Nope.
How old were you?
Never seen it.
Oh.
What?
Yep. Believe it or not, I have never seen Red Dawn.
Wow. Even being on gun channels and hearing the talk about it all the time.
Yep.
Wow.
I learned what's that expression? Everything I know about Red Dawn, I learned from gun channels.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, I was just going to be curious to see what it'd be like as an older person watching it, but I know my dad liked it, so I'm guessing older people probably saw it, because they were also from a generation where their parents were in World War II, so I'm sure they felt like if something happened, they'd jump to it. So I'm sure it was nice for them to see a fictional representation of their kids jumping in and doing what they would have done if, right? They would have needed to if they would have been called. All right, what's the fan theory?
I got a fan theory about Red Dawn. So one of the biggest, I guess, gripes I've heard people mention about Red Dawn is like, oh, there's no way Cuba could have ever done that or ever do that, you know, even with the USSR's help, right? So that's always like the biggest gripe I've always heard. But like in the synopsis of the movie, it tells you that Cuba teamed up with like El Salvador, and they invaded Honduras and
Central America,
Nicaragua and stuff, right? And then it says a communist revolution breaks out in Mexico. Well, in the movie, one of the soldiers is calling the Cuban colonel "Si Senor," where he would have been saying like "me colonel," right? Like if he was Cuban, so that implies he was, you know, Mexican. So I think that like it was not just Cuba. I think they kind of got Mexico to join them basically, because there was a revolution in Mexico. I think was an utter chaos. So like a bunch of Mexico helped participate and, you know, join basically Cuba, right? And I think that's how they did it. So I think a lot of those guys are like Mexican, not Cuban. A lot of those soldiers.
Yeah, and that's when we say Cuba, that's shorthand. Like Cubans were the Soviet influence on Latin America or Central and South America. Yeah. Like you say, united, went to communism. The Cubans were like their overlords. Like they were the communist attaches or whatever the word would be, running them. And then there was, of course, at the end, some actual Russians. But the idea, I think, is supposed to be that Russia's over there with their hands full in Asia and Africa and Europe, and they had basically got the seed of communism over here, and then communist people in South and Central America
So
are who was
yeah,
fighting.
yeah, it was
Yeah, they were their
Central
proxies.
America and Mexico, Cuba, and the USSR is what it took to invade us, and not just Cuba and the USSR. And I think that's like a highly overlooked thing in the movie, that it was really all of Central America and parts of Mexico that invaded us. Like, you know, and that's how they were able to sneak right up the middle, like up into Colorado, is they came right through Mexico.
Yeah, well, it was a deliberate strategy to come in and up and down through the middle so that they could separate us into two halves, because we're a big country. And then you take out the middle where there's fewer people, the more area, and then you move, you know, back. Well, just like they say in the beginning of the movie. So Nate, wait.
So does Gear Websites have a like an Amazon relationship or any of that kind of stuff?
I guess you could say so. I mean, I do. So yeah, but the easiest link is on the front page of Gun Channels. So if we screen share here, if you go to the main page of Gun Channels and just scroll down, on the left-hand side is where all the like affiliate links they're called. We got one.
Okay, there you go.
They got one for Amazon. There's one for the insurance if you want it, and then of course Palmetto State. I need to add one there for Sportsman's Guide because we like that place a lot.
So,
But that one, it's for the revolver, but that'll take you to Amazon, and then anything you search around from Amazon should have that cookie basically on there. But then I guess that technically will take you to our store. So if it takes you to that little revolver, just click on Gear Websites, and that should take you to the stuff that we got out there. Of course, it doesn't. It takes you to one thing. As I say that, I got to go fix that. Put a space in there, and it will.
there it is, Amazon.
General is saying, I spent the 80s as a teen with guns and ATVs in the back 40, not much movie watching. Yeah, well, we didn't have it. Well, I guess it's hard to say. You definitely had people that would sit around watching HBO, but I knew just as many people that couldn't handle that because it was really only maybe 6 movies a month, right? It's just that they played those 6 movies over and over and over and over and over and over and over. So there were people that would just sit there and memorize movies watching them. And then I guess there was people that just never watched them at all. I was kind of in the middle, I guess. I would watch them at night. So I wasn't running around at night. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I was actually out quite a bit at night.
So they remade that too, right? So there's more than one Red Dawn running around.
Yeah, that one's terrible.
The one with, even though it was still by John Milius?
No, it's not by John Milius.
Well, this one here says it's starring Reed Diamond, Kristen Jutner, and I'm saying that don't sound like the guys I'm looking for.
No, I don't know what you're talking about there. Was it 1990 something, or was it 1980?
No, it's 2015.
Yeah, that's the one with the dude that plays Thor in it, and I forget who else.
2015? No, it had to be later than that. No? When did
Red Dawn 2015? Yeah.
When did
That's just weird because and in the on the picture it says Swayze, Howell, Thompson, Sheen, and Gray, but it has all these other weird guys.
the newer Red Dawn came out in 2012? It says so. If you're seeing one,
okay.
15, I don't know what you're finding there.
Yeah, but there was one in the original is 84, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's probably a DVD re-release or something.
Oh, maybe that's what's going on. Yeah.
It's terrible. Don't watch that. Sit down on fire.
Don't watch it. Get
No cable, and the nearest movie rental place was 20 miles away. Yeah, well, I guess in that case, you don't have an option. And movies only stayed in the movie theaters for a couple of weeks at the most back then, if I remember right. So we didn't have anything like those dollar movie theaters that would show old movies. That wasn't until the 90s at some point, right? At least I don't remember ever seeing those when I was a kid.
Yeah, those came around when I was in my 20s, probably.
So anyway, I think Yoder was saying they speak Spanish in Cuba. I don't think so. They speak something else in Cuba. They speak something else in like a lot of those countries, right? It's all Latin, but it's not all Spanish.
But But wouldn't they all know Spanish from being influenced by the Cubans for so long that it was like the common language amongst them all?
Kind of like how we know English, but I think it's different enough that, and they, I mean, you listen to somebody speaking, there was different South American languages or different Latin languages, I don't know how to say it, and then, you know, they sound freaking different. And when you learn, like I've only learned Spanish, but when you learn Spanish, they'll tell you like, this isn't the same for people in what, El Salvador or someplace like, or here and there, because they'll
Well,
say
there are
it.
a lot of different dialects of Spanish. I mean, that was one of the problems. I used to work in a call center organization, and one of the biggest problems we had was when we tried to put together Spanish versions of our virtual response units and stuff. You had to decide which one to use. Are you going to use Castilian? Are you going to use the stuff people speak in Mexico? Or are you going to? It would just drive you nuts.
Yeah. I've worked with
or European Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I've worked
so
with some guys in the kitchen that are like that too, depending on if they're from Ecuador, Honduras, Mexico. Like you said Castilian or Castellano is different.
That's the Spain Spanish. Actually,
Yeah.
that's one of the dialects spoken in Spain. Castilian is like the higher level hoity-toity Spanish. Well, you'll be okay. So I just ordered the DVD, so that'll be my Christmas present to myself that I will finally watch Red Dawn.
Ooh, fancy. Very cool.
Speak more intelligently about it.
It'll be interesting to see what you think of it after hearing about it for so long, but never at least watching it.
Yeah, see if it lives up to the hype.
Well, really, there may have been other movies about, you know, us being invaded and stuff, but I don't think another movie put so much importance on our Second Amendment and why it's good to have a Second Amendment.
Well, that's the whole thing. Exactly. Milius was very aware of where firearms were in culture, and I think going to school, you know, as a gun guy, going to school because he obviously had a passion for expressing himself in the visual, whatever you call it, like motion picture arts or whatever that would be called.
The media, yeah.
So he had an interest, so he was there learning that, and obviously he hung out with people who turned out to be some of the biggest, so he must have been learning in a way that blew everybody's minds and gave them, you know, all kinds of inspiration and stuff. And he must have also experienced some sort of like, you know, the beginnings or the full steam, I don't know what it was like back then, of anti-gun sentiment. So, you know, I mean, it seems as though the way that he built the movie was almost in defiance to some of that. You can see it. He uses guns in some of his movies, but not in an exploitive way as some movies will. You know, some movies the gun is like this in talisman or some sort of like thing. His guns are realistic. He knows what they can do, and he has no interest in exaggerating that. He's very interested in, at least in the Red Dawn movie, being, I guess, I don't know what you want to call it, like realistically accurate, like photographically accurate. He made things look correct. He was aware of what they were supposed to look like, you know, a tank, a helicopter, or a gun, a uniform, the way that they acted. He wanted that to be authentic, and because he was, you know, knowledgeable about what his goal was, he was able to create art that did exactly what he wanted, where other guys could say, oh, I want there to be Russians. And if they came up with some like weird ballet version of Russians, they'd be satisfied because they have no idea what they really wanted in the first place. You know, the director didn't know what their end result was that they had in mind. They just knew they wanted it to be Russian. So what we get is a end result in the final product, you know, could be some conglomeration of who knows what that people were, you know, settled with, where Milius didn't settle for nothing. He knew exactly what he wanted and he built it. And that, I think, was an inspiration and kept Hollywood at least valid to some extent. You know, letting them know there's a bar. Here's real. Here's legit 1984 if the Russians invaded, you know, and here's Flash Gordon, or here's some fantasy movie over here.
Well, it's kind of a bummer too that sorry, Dead Horse.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, but it's kind of a bummer too, and after, I mean, if he was such good friends with Lucas and them, that they kind of went the total opposite direction in their later years and went as far as to like re-edit movies like E.T. and take guns out of them. Kind of the total opposite direction, you know?
as far as Gio was pointing out, like the detail he went with his movies and stuff, I think two of the neat stories that come out of Red Dawn is he did such a good job recreating a Russian tank that he had like FBI agents following the Russian tank across the country. He did such a good job replicating a Soviet helicopter, right? That he had CIA agents investigating the helicopter. Like, so I mean, like, that's pretty good detail, Like, that's kind of like especially back in 1984. I mean, like, yeah, because there wasn't just computers and CGI and everything. They just couldn't make a Russian tank out of thin air, and that's not something you can necessarily like get in the country, right? So they recreated it, and yeah, and for our own government to be investigating him for that because he did such a good job, that's
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
pretty neat.
yeah, that's awesome.
I've read a couple of reviews of the movie online and from back in the day, and one of them was pretty interesting because it was from a guy that had worked as a resistance fighter in the Second World War, and he loved how it showed how resistant, what it was like, how they formed, and how it was like to really be in them. That confusing nature.
Because it's not like 12 years before an invasion, everybody gets together and says, let's do, if, like, here's how we're going to handle it when, that didn't happen. It just was like thrown together, happenstance. Let's see who survived. And when everybody who survived, looks at each other, who's like, sparks are going off that we need to kill whoever was responsible for this. And how do we do that, the most effectively? Let's work together, make this happen. Let's get our country back. Like, that all has to happen spontaneously. It wasn't until much later that you get any kind of influence from, outside your your borders or whatever. And, well, anyway, so let's get into that. So I think that's, aside from the invasion part, I think there's a message there just about, as Americans, as people that are in the melting pot, made up of all the different interests when necessary, we're all of that ilk, or we're all of that character where when it needs to be done, work gets done. And there's a couple of people that don't do anything. There's some people that cause trouble. And then for the most part, we all do, and then deal with the consequences after. And I think that's another big part of the movie that it reflected, or it showed people. And I think that hits because it's not just an action movie. In other words, it's not like Invasion USA or like one of the Chuck Norris movies. I mean, he doesn't do much that stands the test of time as far as like I'm trying to call that, like the real meaning of the movie or whatever. It's not just a movie for the sake of blowing up a bunch of tanks and having realistic AK-47s. The message, the word I'm looking for, like the message is valid, and makes us all, well, it makes, I think, a person who's of that character, it makes you think like, wow, that could all be thrust upon you, and how would I react? Am I going to be the Robert? Am I going to be the Daryl? Which of Daryl's 9mm shooters turned into Daryl's? Daryl shot 9mm.
So, what about the sequel, Red Dawn, G-Webs?
The Tomorrow When the War Ended or something? The Tomorrow When the War Started or something?
Yeah, the sequel and the remake. So, a lot of people don't know about that. Tomorrow When the War Began. Like, that's pretty much the sequel to Red Dawn.
Is that what it's called? Tomorrow When the War Began?
Yeah. And
so, Michael, have you seen that one? Australian movie?
Is that? I was going to say that's the one in Australia, right? Yeah, that was good.
Cycle, have you seen that one?
No, I've never heard of it.
Okay, so it sounds like Pancake has seen it. Woods, have you seen Tomorrow When the War Began?
I have not. I'm gonna need to find that.
All right, just wanted to set the stage. There's people out there that are conversating with us, and then there's people out there that are talking about like domestic energy consumption or something. So let's talk about people that are there talking about Red Dawn. Have you seen Tomorrow When the War Began? Now, Dead Horse, I just wanted to stop and see where people were, but go ahead. I also consider it, I guess, a sequel. But are you saying that it was supposed to happen at the same time? No, because it couldn't happen at the same time. It
It,
wasn't before.
yeah, like they couldn't make it at the same time. They didn't have the budget and all that, right, to make it basically back in the 80s. But it was supposed to be, the same time. Like it was supposed to be like America was under attack too, and that's why we couldn't come over and help them or nothing, right? So it's supposed to be the same universe basically, and basically, but just what happens in Australia, and the story goes is that he wanted to make a Red Dawn 2, an American one, and he couldn't get finance for it. No one would finance him for it, and so they were able to not use a lot of things. The name, of course, Red Dawn and stuff, but basically make a Red Dawn 2 in Australia at a much cheaper price, but actually be able to make it.
Yeah, I only saw it once. And I remember it being pretty good. I mean, I thought it was okay. I just always assumed it was just kind of a ripoff, like that somebody just took the same premise. I mean, you see that in movies, where it's like, oh, it's just like, they're talking about Peppermint. It's like, oh, it's the Punisher with a female instead of a male. But I didn't know they were actually supposed to be tied together.
Yeah, Milas even how do you put like corresponded or correlated, or he literally helped that director out, and I was like telling him like, oh, yeah, this and that, and you know what I mean. So because he couldn't make the movie, he wanted someone else to, and I just thought that was a pretty neat story. And as far as the remake goes, a lot of people don't get the remake. I think is because Milas made a video game, right, called Homefront, that he did the whole story for and everything. And the video game is just like Red Dawn, except he changed a couple things. Like it was North Korea that invades, right? And then the remake of Red Dawn is based really on Homefront, the video game, and not really on the original Red Dawn. And that's why it's slightly different. And that's why, unless you know about that video game kind of transition there, then the new Red Dawn is kind of like, what? Like, what's going on here? Why did they change this? Why did they change that? But it's really because of the video games kind of in between those two.
So video games are why it sucked?
I'm not going to say that, but it's why it's totally different. So it's why it's not like a true to heart like remake, why they try to change so much in it, and just why it's why it's like, North Korea. So
Well, the Red Dawn in Australia is China, right?
Yep.
So basically, it's a bunch of kids that are in Australia as China invades. It's super cool. It's the other way around. Red Dawn was like mostly dudes with 2 chicks. This is like mostly chicks with 2 dudes.
Yeah. It's the chicks are the badasses.
Yeah, and it's super good. Yeah, I can't recommend it enough. I feel like if people haven't seen it, the more we talk about it, it kind of ruins it. But I mean, you kind of know what's going to happen, but I don't want to put too many details out there because it also unfolds well. It's an interesting movie, and it's all visually interesting, right? Because it's Australia. They got a lot of good scenery and stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good movie, and like I definitely consider it a sequel. Mila said he considered it a sequel, so
I need to see an interview with him talking about it because that would be super interesting. I haven't seen that. Is that on like YouTube or something?
I have no idea where I saw that at.
Was it something you've seen though, not read?
Yeah. I'm sure if you just typed in YouTube something like "Tomorrow When the War Began" sequel to Red Dawn, it'll pop up and talk about it.
Yeah. So Rogue, I'm just saying, type in "Tomorrow When the War Began" and then Milius, and then they'll probably find it. Roll Call is saying, wish they'd make an aftermath of Red Dawn, like how they beat them back and reclaim the territory. I think that would be neat.
Oh yeah, years and years later too. We could even do it in today's time. Like a guerrilla war has been going on for 30 years or something. Like a long drawn out Vietnam type thing.
Dude, just like they made that Karate Kid comedy show, Cobra Kai, right? With the same actors from the movie Karate Kid, but like last year or this year.
Yeah.
They
That's what I was just going to say. You don't have Swayze anymore, but it'd be cool to see a bunch of them get together and do something.
Swayze died. All you need is the hot chick and the other guy because they're the only ones that live. But honestly, you don't need any of them. You could do a show like, or a movie about, their kids or something, or just sort of like Man in the High Castle. What it's like.
They had 2 boys. They left and got married. Had 2 boys and named them like Jake and
Jed and
Jed. Yeah,
his name. What's the other guy's name?
isn't it Jake?
Could have been. He doesn't really say it very often.
Jake and Jed. Yeah.
Then Rocall said earlier, I think the Germans would have had a better chance than the USSR than anybody. The Germans had subs off the coast, of the East Coast.
Wasn't there some people in Alaska that got all butthurt because of the tagline from the movie that nobody's ever come on our soil until now, and in reality, Japanese had taken over the Aleutian Islands?
Oh,
I remember that. I remember that movie theater poster.
yeah, they had actually. It'd be interesting to talk to Milius because there was that, and then something happened in California at a McDonald's, and they couldn't use the McDonald's movie poster either. So I think I do remember something like that. And he's the kind of dude that wouldn't want to have like a false claim or like something that was just not correct, right? So I could see him pulling down a poster or campaign. Nate is asking, do you follow South Korean military on Instagram? They posted a video of North Korean AMS South Korean troops at the DMZ. The gear was literally 50 years behind South Korea. Rob is asking, does anyone know if it's free somewhere online? I don't know if he's asking about Tomorrow or Red Dawn. Red Dawn is usually on YouTube. You can usually find it. Sometimes how they make it smaller, they'll do something weird so that it doesn't get, like the robots don't find it. But Red Dawn is also on Netflix and Amazon, kind of off and on. It's one of those that for like whatever, I don't know how those contracts work, but for some length of time, you'll see it on Netflix, you'll be able to watch it, and then it'll be gone. And on Amazon, it'll be free for a while, and then it'll cost you $3 or whatever to watch it sometimes.
I found a great piece of trivia. The capture of Saddam Hussein was called Operation Red Dawn, and Objective 1 was Wolverine, and Objective 2 was Wolverine. What movie were they watching?
No, but yeah, that's the thing. That really was Red Dawn to capture Saddam Hussein.
Oh, he's asking about Tomorrow. Yeah, he found it free on YouTube, so that one's worth watching. And you don't need to watch it as like a fancy DVD. It's just a movie. It's not like I mean, it is kind of neat. There are some interesting like views of the nature and
I'd say it's definitely worth like trying to find a good copy that's like in good quality though. That's a movie worth watching in good in HD.
You don't want that 52-inch TV going to waste. Get a decent copy of it.
Yeah, and for Red Dawn, especially when you buy a DVD, some of that's going to Milius. That dude deserves money. That was an awesome movie. And he had a stroke, so I'm sure he could use the money. I don't know if I imagine he's probably pretty rich.
Oh yeah, like he's been writing and producing and directing for years. I mean, go on Apocalypse Now, just off Apocalypse Now, he's still rich.
Or Conan?
Yeah, Conan the Barbarian, and just like he's done so much stuff. Like, yeah.
You would think so, but a lot of guys like that end up plowing a lot of their own money right back into the next film.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. I don't know if he's rich. I think he might be fine, but I don't know if he's loaded like Spielberg or something.
He's Gun Channel's rich, but he's probably nowhere near like Bill Gates rich.
Well, even like his friends Spielberg and Lucas are probably dwarf him, I'm sure.
Yeah, but he has his respect is still intact.
I was gonna say he can't be that great because I never seen South Park make fun of him. So
Oh no, they did a whole episode called Grey Dawn. That's based on Red Dawn, where the old people in South Park like take over the town because they're tired of being like, yeah, it's based on Red Dawn. It's called Grey Dawn.
oh man, that's great. Maybe I should watch that first as a primer.
Well, but as far as the cultural aspect to it, I think there's some parallels. Well, I like to think there's some parallels. That's why I use the intro to the show is the Radio Free America esque Radio Free America like clip from the movie, because culturally we're under attack, right? And I think it has to do with statists, right? Communists, people that want the state to provide everything, that think that wealth is something that should be distributed and all that. And for whatever reasons, I think we've got a cultural war going, right? And we can either consider ourselves Wolverines, people that are willing to just do and hold up and do our thing and be a resistance, right? The whole thing of the Wolverines was they were resistance fighters, just like the French were in World War II. So culturally, are we Wolverines or are we the city folk, or are we going to be rounded up and put in the movie theater, which we found on the last tour?
Well, I think our founding fathers gave us the Second Amendment for a reason. So I think then it's
And the first. That's what this show is about. This show is like our camp up in the mountains where we get together and listen to the radio and then strategize and go down and do whatever we need to do to keep people aware that there's options.
I agree. I think if you're here with us right now, you're going to be part of the people that are going to fight back, right? Isn't that kind of all the point of why we're all here?
I hope
it's
so.
to practice for the final test.
Certainly not.
That's convincing someone with a logical argument, that, and stuff. So however you want to look at your battle, right?
Roll call saying, what are the places they filmed Red Dawn in? I'd like to put those places on the bucket list. It's pretty easy. Just go to Las Vegas, New Mexico. And now with the internet, it's actually made it pretty easy to find most of the filming locations. As more and more places accumulate people's exploration of the filming locations, you can find them all pretty easy. But I don't know, it's kind of a little town in the middle of northern New Mexico. It is a cool place to go. It's like an hour or something, hour and a half north of Albuquerque. You're going to drive through, what's the name of that town? Santa Fe. It's kind of a neat town visually. It's a neat town. It's an artistic town. A lot of rich people there, so really neat looking houses and stuff, and a lot of, it's an interesting little town. Then you head over to Las Vegas, and it's about an hour something south of the Whittingham Center, giant NRA facility, shooting ranges, campgrounds and stuff. Also in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico. That's about an hour south of Colorado. All kinds of neat stuff to do in Colorado. That's about the Red Dawn filming locations are about 3 hours south of Colorado Springs, which is where Dragon Man is, which is the best collection of firearms, period, you can just experience on a Sunday. So I would recommend going to the Red Dawn filming locations, giving yourself a day or so to see the Red Dawn places, maybe on a Friday or Saturday, and then give yourself time to get up to Dragon Man on a Sunday. So that means doing it during the summer and not during the winter. He's closed in the winter. And then you could probably hang out at one of the hotels in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and go to the town has right next to the, they call it like a train station, I guess. And next to the building that Red Dawn, the end scenes of Red Dawn were filmed in, right next to there's I guess like a little museum, not really a museum even, it's just a little room with some pictures on the wall, but they're like the town's, I don't know what to call it, like film museum or history something. Anyway, they can give you, there's a little booklet there that gives you a bunch of information about all kinds of movies were filmed there. Actually, dozens of movies have been filmed in that town. So they give you information about all of those. But that could give you some heads up when you're at that little center, that building there at the train station. You're only a block north of the big sign on the building, the Calumet Says Howdy sign. And when you're at that sign, you'll see all the locations from town. They're just all right there within a couple of blocks of each other, and you can just stand there and see them all. So those are easy to explore. But driving out to like the high school and then some of the other locations might take you, a good day to see them all. But if you spent a day there and then headed up to Colorado Springs, you'd be able to check out that NRA place. If you brought guns with you, I would say spend a day at the NRA range. There's a museum there and a gun shop. There's also a massive research library there. If you ever needed to do any kind of research on firearms, that would be a good opportunity. And then, like I say, head up to Colorado Springs and fly out of Colorado Springs. That's the way I would recommend it. Get a rental out of Albuquerque and then fly home out of Colorado Springs. Or they should do some sort of a bus tour. Maybe we could arrange some sort of Red Dawn bus tour. Everybody flies into Albuquerque, meet up at BMC Tactical and shoot some machine guns or something, and then get on a bus or a van or something and head up to the filming locations and check them all out. Go up and shoot at the NRA range, then go up to Colorado Springs, and everybody flies home from Colorado Springs.
That's a great idea.
I wonder how much that would cost. That'd be kind of neat.
Do you know if that school that was in the movie, is that an active school? Is there like, students and whatnot there?
Oh yeah. So the high school that it starts at, and where the football field is and stuff, that I've been going there since 2012. It's the first time I went there. And back then it still looked close to the movie. At least the outside stuff looked close to the movie. The building, the school building, had removed all the windows, like where they rip out the PPAM and shoot the teacher and start wailing into the kids in the windows or whatever. All those windows were like boarded up. They like remodeled the school, and it just was like a big brick wall now. So that part of it is, I've never seen the actual school from the movie, but we call like the parking lot where they come down and where the football field is and the scoreboard and all that was exactly the same as the movie back in 2012. So I got pictures of Oro in front of the board and everything. Now in 2000 and whatever, 10 or something, the next time I went by, maybe 9, I forget, they had already like started messing with the school. They put like a fence up and stuff. And then this last time I went by, the school is like all like, there's like a giant fence around the whole thing, and it's all kind of changed outside. They have it like set up to where like the parents and the buses go in one side and out the other, where before nobody cared, there was no signs. So it's definitely like less, you can't get in there basically, and unless it happens to be open. When I went there, it happened to be open for like a softball game or something, so I went in real quick. But I think where back in the day you could just drive up to that school anytime, like on a Sunday you could just drive up there and you could just drive up. Nowadays, it'd have to be in session, or they'd have to be open to even get near the school. The movie theater's right there. The gas station where they drive up in the tank, and there's the hidey holes. You can just drive up to that. The rocks where he yells Wolverine, you can just drive up to that. The gas station where they load up and everything was a prop, but that intersection is just there. You can drive up to that. So pretty much all the other places you can drive up and experience. It's just the school now that's, like all schools probably, just getting a big fence around it. All right, well, I'll let that there. Maybe that's the end of that one. We're about an hour in, so I think we'll do the drawing. Let me open up the store and see where we're at with orders. So let's open it up. We'll say thanks again to everybody that participated in our Cyber Monday extravaganza. Start counting them up here. So everybody that ordered today will get one of those Wolverine patches, and then every order over $20, which is a good chunk of them, will get a deck of cards as well. And that's all of them. So it looks like we're at 16. So that's pretty awesome. That's a Cyber Monday for us. So we'll do the random. Oh, my screen sharing. Let's screen share here. There we go. And we'll bring up that random. And what did I say? 16. We'll put 16 in here. And cycle, top or bottom?
Top.
Dead horse, top or bottom?
Top.
Pancakes
Bottom.
and woods.
I think I'm in one of the 16, so can I not do it?
Sure. So then, well, it looks like we got top then, and I'll hit go. Number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's Brian in Washington. Huh. Looks like the fix is in and Woods just grabbed it.
Oh, snap.
Just like yesterday. So
But he wouldn't have if he hadn't abstained. See, it's still a fix.
Yeah, you knew.
there was
I used Clever's idea.
He knew.
It happened to me last time. See?
Right on. Well, I do appreciate everybody who participated today. Hopefully that'll keep us going a bit longer, and happy to share the patches and the decks. And please, when you get the stuff, post pictures and videos or whatever, because it's the time of the year when people are looking for Christmas gifts and things like that, stocking stuffers and whatnot. So hopefully we've got some things that can be interesting as gifts, and we'll use the store like it's supposed to be and keep funding some of our projects. Anybody else have anything else then tonight?
No, I put up a new gun video. That's about it.
Something from Wanamaker or something different?
Yep. Yeah, I finally gave up and did a thing on the Maz 36 that I bought. So that's fresh and new. That I just finished that probably just as you were getting ready to. I know you sent me the invite, and I was just uploading the stuff during the invite. So that was all good junk. But it's on gun channels as well, obviously.
Right on. I have not seen that one yet. Are you posting your stuff on Gunstreamer?
No.
What you could let them know that if you're interested to set up an account for you, and then every time you post something on YouTube, it just happens automatically. Then you don't have to do anything. It'll just have a backup over there.
I heard that was really hard. I heard you had to like push a button or something.
Oh yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
But awesome. So again, thanks everybody for participating in the Cyber Monday fun. We will have all that stuff in the mail tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get it all quickly. I think there's probably a lot of stuff going out in the mail, but I'm mentioning everybody's on deck at the post offices and all the different places, because that's their gig, right? This is their time of year. Oh, we should probably talk about a gun shop. Does anybody have a gun shop in mind?
No, I actually was to one yesterday, but I talked about it on the show a while back. I'm trying to get him on to my show to talk a little bit, though. If you want to bring that one up again.
Sure.
It's called 717 Armory.
You're saying you'd like to get them on your show as a guest?
Yeah. They're pretty local to me. It's a younger guy. He's a little bit younger than me. He's a Marine. And we do we do have some common people that we know, common acquaintances. So it's a pretty cool place. They do full auto rentals. They do rentals of regular stuff. They sell suppressors, and so I stopped in yesterday. He wasn't there. I talked to his sister works there. I talked to her for a little bit. Dropped off some Gun Channel swag, and invited him on to the show. I'm waiting for him to get back from his hunting trip. He's upstate hunting, so hopefully within the next week or two, maybe he'll be able to join us on the Sunday show. And I just thought it'd be really interesting to talk about a young guy, young entrepreneur kind of dude that's a business owner in the firearms industry, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. At least I'd be interested.
Yeah. So, when he's on, I'll definitely hit, you guys up, and, I'd love to have you guys, ask him some questions and pick his brain a little bit about, somebody that's new, like a new owner. They've only been open a little under a year, I think. I'm not sure where else around my area you could rent full auto, so I was pretty excited about that.
I'm trying to type here, but I'm just going to say it. So relatively saying thanks, but wishing I was just saying thanks for your orders, and he's saying thanks. He wish he could, but he's doing some he's got some financial things, and that's the thing I wanted to address. I really appreciate it when people participate, especially financially, but participation in the chats, participation on gun channels, participation in the community in general, watching other people's videos, heading over to Gunstreamer. That's really what it's all about. So being active in the community, being active with the people that are creating content, that's the kind of thing that it works with the engines that run the internet, right? We talk about that on Mondays a lot, and Clover talks about it on Thursdays. On our workshops on Saturdays and Tuesdays, we try to bring light to that kind of stuff, the guts, the gears that run the internet, right? So those likes, those views, subscribing to channels, participating in the content that's being created. It all helps the internet recognize and acknowledge that firearms are valid and that there's humans out here that are paying attention to this stuff. So that's ultimately necessary and valuable. But at the same time, those same mechanisms, using the likes, being a view for these people that are creating content, myself included, for us, the human beings doing it, that's ultimately valuable. So it's necessary for us to do the financial stuff. Some of us, like myself, that are trying to do this full time, I have no other income coming in except for Patreon and the Gear Website store, right? I'm not independently wealthy. I don't have what do I call it, like a pension coming in that's providing nothing. Other guys are trying to do this as much as possible with a part-time job or with some other kind of thing that requires time. So when it gets frustrating and we're questioning if it's worth it all, seeing those likes and seeing that participation is ultimately important. It's ultimately valuable. So as much as we, today's Capitalism Day and it's Cyber Monday, and like I say, we're kind of focusing on the purchasing part or the financial part of it, I don't want to discount the participation. I mean, every single day I try to acknowledge that we're doing this not as a platform to distribute our knowledge because somehow our information is so valuable that you're lucky to get it. We're doing this as a part of a conversation. We're trying to get people active. So being active, being out there and being part of it is ultimately valuable, and I appreciate it personally. As much, if not more, than the financial side. Unfortunately, like I say, I have to talk about that financial side once in a while because nobody else will, and I have to pay the bills. But I definitely don't want anyone to think that if they aren't participating financially that you're not as valued as being part of this whole thing, because that's what it's all about. Yeah, the deals are still going, so any orders that come in today, you're not going to be in the drawing anymore, unfortunately, because I had this whole thing going with Woods, but you'll definitely get the free stuff and the patches and whatnot.
See, you heard it. He said he has a thing going with Woods. That's why Woods won. See, you heard it.
It was just a prior arrangement financially. Wrong?
Oh, okay.
No, I guess.
Just said I need money, so. All right. So anyway, we talked about a gun shop today. We talked about the movie, a little more insight why it's, and I think it's a valuable movie, and an interesting movie, an important movie, and why I focus some of my projects on it. And we did our Cyber Monday stuff. So again, thanks to everybody. Brought in a pile of cash today, which is awesome. Helps keep the gears moving and the wheels rolling. And we're going to be jumping in all kinds of new things in 2019, I hope here. This will be our 15th year of fun websites, and going into our 5th year gun channels. So the community's growing, and everybody's projects are developing, and hopefully we'll continue to see new and exciting things happening as we go forward here. Anything else anybody wants to throw in before we head out tonight?
No, I will say this. It was kind of neat when I was over there yesterday talking to them at the gun shop. They knew of gun channels. Yeah, they follow gun channels on Instagram. And she said, what's that?
You mean Marco then?
Yeah. Well, they know gun channels. They actually follow gun channels. And when she said that she thought she met you, and I was like, I don't think so, probably not. And it was Marco, yeah. And I said, was it Marco? She said, yeah. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. But still, I mean, it's neat to be out there and to hear people that know of gun channels. You know what I mean? So that's kind of.
Well, let's talk about that, since we're rolling up our sleeves and talking about that. Marco is a good friend, and Marco was around when gunchannels.com started, right? He wasn't big into YouTube. He participated in the conversations, but I don't think he was ever one to watch everybody's videos, as far as like videos that were what we call them, produced videos. Like, he wasn't always watching every 5 or 15-minute video that was posted, but he was active in the live conversations, and I think he really appreciates the diversity of the group that are 2A oriented, and their drive and the activism and whatnot. So he's always participated in that. When we started Gun Channels, he was right here. So when we started Gun Channels, it's always been a collaboration of efforts, right? And it's not just a stage for the in crowd or nothing. And when it came time to do the Instagram portion of Gun Channels, Marco jumped up and said, yeah, I'll run the Gun Channels for you. So together we ran the Gun Channels Instagram account. But Marco has an uncanny thumb on the pulse over on Instagram. Like, he understands Instagram and the way that it moves. Was able to take the Gun Channels Instagram account and just took it from 0 to 80 miles an hour and just didn't look back. So I've used it less and less and let him run it. And then after a long time, he had grown it to one of the largest channels out there and was getting approached with all kinds of things. So whenever that was, we said, hey, look, we'll operate them. And the Gun Channels itself will be Gun Channels. And then Marco went with Gun Channels _ So Gun Channels _ is a massive Instagram account run by Marco. And, he's a Gun Channels member. So he'll, post things once in a while. But the actual Gun Channels Instagram account is just sitting there dead in the water. Every once in a while, I'll remember to go over and click something over there. But I do it fairly rarely. So if anyone out there is interested in helping to run the Gun Channels Instagram account, get with me, and you're more than welcome to help out. I'd like to get 2 or 3 people running the Gun Channels Instagram to do a couple of things. It's not a huge channel. It's not Marco's channel with 300,000 subs. It's a little channel that's, it's just created at one point and just kind of sits vacant. But it's got the ability to enhance some of the projects that people are out there doing, and to supplement, add hits and stuff to some of the projects and posts that people do. And then with some effort, with some continual use of the account, it will eventually grow. And potentially, since it is basically accumulation, or it is the, what I'm trying to say, the sum of all the people on Gun Channels posting stuff, it has the potential to get large again, just the way Marco got it large. he did that in part by all the people on gun channels using the hashtag and stuff. So by having someone actually active over there, we could get that channel pretty big, and then it could actually turn around and help everybody's efforts. So at first it'll help it'll encourage their efforts, but eventually once it becomes a large enough entity with some momentum, it'll actually be able to pull people on gun channels along with it. So if somebody's interested in pursuing that, it's definitely a strategy that works. We've seen it happen, and all we really need is some people that are interested in helping to work on it basically daily. Instagram's the kind of thing that needs to happen daily. So anybody that's interested in that, get with me at gunwebsites@gmail.com or over on gun channels.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and it is gun channels _. So it's Marco that they follow, which makes sense.
Yeah, he's huge. And let's see. I'll give you thumb. Bullets don't drift due to false earth spin or planes as helicopters would to Mumbo Soft Maniac Digital Profit. Man, I don't know what you're trying to say there, but yeah, that's Digital Profit is Marco. All right, well, we kind of sputtered and sputtered there, but this time we're going to end it. Thanks again, everybody, for participating and joining in on the conversation. We'll be back same time tomorrow.
The guys and gals of gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching gunwebsites.com.